What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay guys, so we are basically going to do a full story video. A full story video is when I basically sit down and take a bunch of videos that tell one overarching storyline. Now, today's video is going to be about Earth 1 Superman. So back in I want to say 2012, DC basically launched the Earth 1 comics, where of course these were stories that take place in an alternate universe. You had Earth 1 Batman, Earth 1 Teen Titans, Earth 1 Green Lantern, and Earth 1 Wonder Woman. But you also had Earth 1 Superman, and technically he was the first. When DC was making this, they picked Superman to kind of launch this new comic book line, this new era of comics, Earth 1 Comics. And let me tell you guys, Earth 1 Superman is probably one of the best Superman series I have ever read in my entire life. Now, honestly, I have not read that many Superman comics, but this is still one that a lot of people actually care for. And matter of fact, I wish it had a volume 4, but of course it does not, because most Earth 1 comics end with 3 volumes and that is it. But with that being said, here is Earth 1 Superman, a different kind of Superman, learning how to be Superman in a different universe. I do hope you enjoy. Now, in the opening pages of this book, we pick up with a Clark Kent that is already coming into Metropolis. Like, this is his first day into Metropolis. And right now, we can tell with this Clark Kent, he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. And the reason why I'm saying that, because you have Clark Kent arrive in Metropolis. He finds an apartment. And the place he's staying at right now, the lady is asking how long is he planning on staying here? And he tells her, I don't know yet. She even asks him, are you going to go to college? And he's all like, I don't know yet. It's Clark Kent trying to figure out what he wants to do with his life. Now, again, we have no idea about the past of Clark Kent in this alternate universe, but all we know is that right now he is just arriving into Metropolis and trying to figure out what he wants to do with his life right now in Metropolis. Now, as Clark Kent is going around and trying to basically figure out this city, he does run into a random thug. Now, this thug does pull out a gun. Now, of course, with this thug pulling out a gun, he does plan on shooting Clark Kent. Now, of course, you do have Clark Kent tell this thug to put the gun away, kind of like a warning, because this thug has no idea that Clark Kent has powers. But of course, you have the thug continue to try to rob Superman until you actually have Clark Kent use his heat vision to get rid of the gun. Now, remember what I said earlier. This is a Superman or Clark Kent who has no idea what he wants to do with his life. All we know is that he arrived in Metropolis with no idea what he wants to do. And so the first thing he does is go to a football tryout session. Of course, this tryout session is to allow people to actually walk on and join the city of Metropolis football team. So like, imagine if your team had a professional NFL team and they allow tryouts. And if you're able to prove that you are a good player in those tryouts, they will actually give you a contract deal. And so this is what we're seeing right now with Metropolis, where you have this football team having a tryout. Clark Kent is trying out to see maybe his life should go in the direction of being a football player. Now, with that being said, you have Clark Kent just showing off. And you can tell it's Clark Kent doing all these different things so well, where of course the coaches are like, yo, we have to sign him. Get me a check right now. Leave that check blank, because how much money he wants, you put that down. because this dude will be our future franchise player. Like, he is legit. Make sure you sign him now. And so, of course, you do have the coach actually talk to Clark Kent. Now, we are left to believe that basically Clark Kent did turn down the football job offer, and he does go to a nearby science facility. Now, when he goes to this science facility, of course, he was actually trying to apply for a position where he is one of the main scientists of this laboratory. Now, of course, the person in charge kind of like, I don't even know who you are. We only hire people who have PhDs from the top 5 colleges in the nation. So why should I hire you if I have no idea about who you are and you have no record of a PhD nor any records of being a top scientist in the world? So why should I hire you? Now, of course, that is the moment you have Clark Kent say, okay, tell me what your scientists are currently working on. And of course, it's some crazy math equation. And you have Superman write out the answer to that equation, give it to the guy in charge. The guy in charge goes and takes it to the scientists. And when they all look at Clark Kent's work, they realize they have a genius standing in their room. And you have that guy come back to Clark Kent and say, stay right there, because we want to offer you a job, because you just basically broke that equation that these top scientists have been struggling with for the last couple of days, weeks, or months, who knows. But either way, it's the scientists now saying, we want to hire you. Whatever position you want, listen, you can have it. And so later on that night, we actually do learn a little bit more about the origin of this Superman, this Clark Kent, where, of course, at this point in his life, his father, Jonathan Kent, is dead. He's no longer around. But of course, by this point, Martha Kent has retired, and she's just hoping that her son, Clark Kent, will live a good life and be happy with anything he actually chooses to do. Now, this kind of brings in a life lesson for Superman, where, of course, you have Clark Kent say he did find a couple jobs, and he's kind of wondering which one to take. But if he takes either one of these jobs, he'll be able to actually take care of his mother. But then you have his mother say, do not worry about taking care of me. Worry about taking care of yourself. Because I have this house. I have my retirement. I have my memories of you and Jonathan. That's all I need. The last thing I want right now for you, Clark, is to do something you want to do. But whatever you choose, just know your mother is going to support you no matter what you choose. Now, if you're asking me what I want you to do, well, it's the same thing your father wanted you to do. And of course, we know if you go down that road, you could lose yourself a tad bit. But again, we're not going to force you to go down that road. We just want you to be happy. Now, of course, we kind of get a little hint here that basically Jonathan Kent was kind of telling Clark to use his powers for the betterment of good. And so we do see Clark Kent kind of go out of his way and try to find other kinds of jobs, where, of course, every single interview that Clark Kent has, he shows them that he's worth a lot of money because what he's able to actually do. But of course, it still doesn't satisfy Superman enough, to the point he's still wondering, what does he want to do? And that is the moment he does see a newspaper. And of course, when he does see that newspaper, it does kind of give him the idea of what he wants to do, which is basically possibly be a reporter. Now, we actually do pick up with Clark Kent going to the Daily Planet, where, of course, he does meet characters like Perry White. He does meet Lois Lane. He does meet Jimmy Olsen. Now, I do want to say, you would think that basically with him coming here, that he would instantly fall in love with Lois Lane, that he would instantly become best friends with Jimmy Olsen. But the thing is, as Superman is interviewing with Perry White, you have Perry White trying to put out flames left and right. And not literal flames, but like different things going on with the Daily Planet. That even though he's interviewing Clark Kent, he's still taking care of business on the side. And so really, it doesn't give Clark Kent that much chance to actually communicate with Lois Lane, that much chance to communicate with Jimmy Olsen, or that much amount of time to actually talk to Perry White while he's there at the Daily Planet. But either way, you do have Perry White say, listen, here is an application. If you want to apply, go ahead and apply. But I read your past stories, and I can tell your past stories you wrote in Smallville, it felt like you were holding back something. And I want you to write like nothing is holding you back. And with that being said, it makes Clark Kent actually think a little bit about himself. Like, well, what if Perry White is actually speaking the truth? And so you actually do have Clark Kent take that application as he leaves the Daily Planet and throws it in the trash. Now, that is the moment we actually do see Superman fly out into space. And this kind of shows us that, yes, this is not like your Smallville Superman where he has no idea how to fly until the very end of the show. That this is your Superman who knows how to fly. But then we see him kind of beginning the process of having a flashback. And this flashback is going to be very important about the origin of Superman. And of course, this flashback is a conversation that basically is Jonathan and Martha Kent telling Superman that he is not from Earth, that he is from a different planet. Now, of course, they have no idea what kind of planet he's from, but it's them telling him, listen, son, you are not from here. You're not from Earth. And clearly you should know that by now by the different things you're doing on the farm, which tells us that his powers have begun to manifest around this age, which I'm going to say probably like 6, 7, or 8. But either way, it's the Kent family saying, you came from a different planet. And when you crashed here, well, you had something with you. And that is when we go deeper back in time to the point where we actually pick up with Jonathan and Martha Kent kind of on a hike. And while they're hiking around, of course, that was the moment you do had Clark Kent's spaceship crash on the Earth. And of course, when it did crash on the Earth, you had the Kent family go towards the crash to see the crash plane or the crash spaceship. And when they got close enough, they found a baby. And of course, that baby was Clark Kent. And so you had the Kent family take the baby, get far away from that spaceship. And luckily they did right on time because that spaceship did blow up. Now, the book does answer the question, did the government step in after Clark Kent's spaceship crashed? And the answer is yes, they did. And what they did was basically right after the crash site, a bunch of helicopters did fly towards the crash site. Now, of course, Jonathan and Martha Kent, they were already gone with the baby and driving off. But of course, it shows us that the government kind of knew about the crash landing of Superman. Which then this leads into another conversation between Clark Kent and Jonathan Kent, where you have Jonathan kind of hand over a small piece of something to Clark Kent and said, this was the only thing we were able to gather from your spaceship before we had to leave, and of course, before it blew up. But this is all we have left. Now, of course, it does lead into another flashback where Clark Kent was being bullied. Now, of course, this shows that Clark Kent did not use his powers for evil. He did not use his powers for personal gain. That basically, when it came to bullies just picking on him, he made sure to hold back his powers and not use it against the bullies at all. But of course, it did bother him, but he had no choice not to do anything to keep his powers a secret. Now, we do see Clark Kent actually go over to a graveyard site. Now, of course, this graveyard site is what's holding the grave of Jonathan Kent. And Clark Kent comes here to talk to his father. Now, of course, this is where we kind of can say that Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent wanted Clark to use his powers for the betterment of good, meaning that to go to the world and show the world who he is, but to show the world that he's actually here for the betterment of good, to actually help people out, to protect the earth. But of course, when it came to Clark Kent, he did not want to do that at all. What Clark Kent wanted to do, and he's doing it right now, is just blending in. He wanted to be left alone. He did not want to be out there into the world as some kind of hero. He just wanted to be a regular person. And with him being able to get almost any job in the world, meaning that he can have how much money he wants to have and to spend over and over again, that is what he wants. He wants to live a life alone with money and away from any kinds of problem. He does not want to be this Superman character. But of course, he's kind of wondering, maybe he should. And so with that is him saying, Dad, I wish you were here so that we can actually properly talk to one another. Now, that is when we actually jump over to the character known as Sandra Lee. Now, of course, Sandra Lee works for the military, and she's in charge of one very particular military operation right now. And of course, when she does go inside the base of this military base, well, that is the moment we kind of find out that basically the government did step in right after Superman did crash on the earth. Because right now we see they're studying a part of Superman's ship, what brought him here to Earth. Now, while they're studying this ship, they're having a hard time decrypting or decoding any Kryptonian word. So they have no idea what is written on this ship. Now, one of the scientists was able to tell us that basically when it came to Kryptonians, they were able to actually write on atoms and molecules. And that is huge because those things are so small that you should not be able to write on them. But apparently, Kryptonians were able to do that. And of course, it makes Sandra Lee want to know more about this ship. But that is the moment she gets a call from a scientist saying, hey, listen, we're picking up some weird things floating outside the Earth atmosphere. And of course, she's kind of like, what do you mean? It's probably just some meteorites. Just ignore it. But that is the moment you had a scientist say, no, these are not meteorites at all. These are basically something out in space that are flying close to Earth and they just changed their course, meaning that they're coming to Earth. So meaning that they could possibly be coming for this spaceship. Now, the next section makes you think that basically the Earth is about to be invaded, but not just yet, because right now we actually jump back over to Clark Kent, and right now we kind of find out that there is a building on fire. Now, at first, you would think that basically it would be Clark Kent going into that building to save the innocent lives of people who could possibly be trapped inside that building, but he's not. He went inside that building to save one particular item because that was his apartment building. Now, again, he does not go in there to basically get his clothes. He goes in for one particular item. And of course, it's the same item that Jonathan and Martha Kent gave their son when they found him originally when he crashed on Earth, and they saved for him when he was a young boy. And of course, gave it to him. And he held on to that piece ever since then. But of course, when he does fly out of the building with that piece begins to glow. And for Superman, he's kind of like, what's happening right now? Why is this piece beginning to glow? And so you do have Superman use his X-ray vision. And when he does use his X-ray vision, he was kind of able to kind of look deeper into the piece to get a better look to see why in the world it's glowing right now? Why is it activating? What is about to happen? But that is the moment he does see the molecules in the atoms. And remember, Kryptonians were able to actually write on those. But of course, with him using his X-ray vision to read those, it sent some kind of power beam to his brain to basically make him crash onto the earth. And so, of course, it seems like it's feeding him some kind of information. But getting back to Sandra Lee in the military base, of course, at the same time Clark Kent found his piece that was given to him, it began to glow. Of course, this piece of his spaceship also begins to glow, but that is the moment you have something else begin to happen on the earth. Well, of course, you have Sandra Lee get a call, and they're telling her, listen, things are popping off right now. You don't understand. Things are popping off. And we pick up with Perry White and Lois Lane, and when they look outside the Daily Planet window, they see something big happening. And of course, it is an alien invasion. You have an entire alien military force here in Metropolis just wrecking through the area. Jets are trying to fly in to protect the country, and they're being blown up out of the sky, which means that those bogeys that the scientists found earlier and Sandra Lee thought there could be a possibility they were just meteorites are no longer meteorites. These are basically now aliens invading the earth. That is what the scientist was trying to tell her, because those bogeys just randomly changed course very quickly in space, which told us that this is an alien invasion. And of course, they have to be here for Superman and also here for his spaceship, because why on earth would they arrive right now as soon as the spaceship was able to activate? Now, of course, we all know with Metropolis being attacked by this alien invasion, you're going to have Lois Lane be Lois Lane. And so Lois Lane's all like, Jimmy, let's go. We got to get out there, get a story, and also get a picture. So let's go. And so you have Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen be those people who go out in the middle of a war zone, be all like, I got to get a story. I got to get a picture. And honestly, I'm telling you guys right now, if we had an alien invasion happening right now and I was a reporter, I would not be out there doing this right now. I'd be hiding. But of course, it's Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. So they do go out there to try to get a picture and try to get a story together to see what's happening right now in Metropolis. And basic military jets are doing nothing to these alien ships, which of course makes sense. But of course, you have Lois Lane getting word about what is happening in other parts of the world. Because it's not just Metropolis, it's also Hong Kong, it's also London, it's also Rome. You have the whole world right now being invaded by aliens. And this shows that whatever's going on between Clark Kent, that spaceship, and this alien invasion is going to be big and epic. But of course, it's time for Superman to step up, because right now the entire world is about to be wiped out. Now, Clark Kent, he's still knocked out, but while being knocked out, that is the moment we come to find out the ship is beginning to repair itself. The same ship that brought Superman to Earth, that's right now being held at a military base, is beginning to heal itself. And that right there is huge, but it's still trying to get its systems back online for something big, huge to happen. Now, that is the moment we come to find out that basically right now, the ship is downloading something into Clark Kent's mind. And this is actually very huge, because what's being downloaded into his mind right now is basically different memories that he needs to know as a way to learn more about his past, his true origin. And that is the moment we get this flashback where you have Zor-El and Lara getting ready to put Clark Kent into a spaceship. And of course, to send him away because Krypton is about to blow up. But this is where you have Superman begin to learn more about his past. Because remember, before this moment right here, Clark Kent had no idea where he came from. The only thing he knew was he was found by the Kent family. He is some kind of alien and he has powers. That is it. But this begins the process of him learning more about his past. Now, we actually do jump back over to Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen because right now they're out there trying to get that story. But that is the moment you have Jimmy Olsen tell Lois Lane what's about to happen, because all the patterns right now of this alien invasion seems like be happening the way most people would actually think an alien invasion would happen. So for example, first you have bombs, then you have the skies being controlled, and right now the skies are in control by the alien invasion. But then you have Jimmy tell Lois the next thing on their mind is to send down their troops. And that is the moment you have a bunch of ships just crash onto the Earth ground. And you have all these robot drones begin to come out, which tells us, yes, the Earth is being invaded. And now they're about to kill a bunch of innocent people to most likely get to Superman. Now, that is the moment we actually get introduced to the main bad guy of the book. And of course, the main bad guy of the book is the one who's leading this army right now. And of course, that person is no other than Tyrell. Yes, his name is Tyrell. Honestly, I know it's a bad name, but you know what? Move on. But either way, you do have Tyrell right now tell the entire world that he is the one who is leading this alien invasion. He is the one who's basically here looking for a certain person. And of course, that certain person is no other than Superman. Now, of course, he does not tell the world, yes, I'm looking for Clark Kent. Yes, I'm looking for Superman. No, because he has no idea Superman is Clark Kent, and the world has not met Superman yet. The only thing he's saying is he's looking for a certain person, and he will find that certain person. Now, if that certain person is not on this planet, then he will leave. But of course, he will only leave unless he makes sure that that person is not on this planet, which means that several millions of people are going to die just for him to make sure that person is not on this planet. Now, Clark Kent, he's seeing this. He's seeing the entire world being invaded right now. And he knows that this alien invasion is happening because of him, because they're looking for him. And so he knows he has to do something. The question is, though, what does he do? What can he do? And so what he does next is he basically goes out of his way to destroy some robots, which do, of course, save Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, but that was not his master plan. He was just destroying those robots to actually get a piece of those robots, to take back to that science group he was interviewed by earlier in this book. And he's telling them, listen, I have a piece of one of those robots. If we're able to actually study this piece and learn more about them, then maybe we can actually stop them. But of course, you have all these scientists say, no, we are going to hide. Why in the world would I stay here while an alien invasion is happening? Insurance doesn't cover that. I'm out. Bye. Now we do get another flashback where is another conversation between Jonathan Kent and Clark Kent. Now this conversation is more of Jonathan Kent telling his son, listen, there are going to be things that we don't want to do, but we have to do. We have to basically put that pressure on the back of our shoulders and get that job accomplished. It seems like it's basically Jonathan Kent saying there's going to be a time where you're going to have to use your powers. There's going to be a time where your powers are going to be needed. And of course, you don't want to use your powers, but you're going to have to use your powers if you want to protect innocent people's lives. And that is when we actually do jump over to the moment where you actually have Jimmy Olsen, the present day, trying to get a picture of one of the robots. Now, of course, you have Tyrell actually take over one of the robots. And when he does question Jimmy Olsen like, why aren't you running away? Like, you should probably get away. And you have Jimmy like, nope, I'm going to stay here. And the reason why, because I need to get a picture. Now, at first, it's Tyrell thinking that Jimmy Olsen is Clark Kent. Like, oh, you're my target. You're the one that got away from me. I came here for you. But it's Jimmy Olsen like, no, I'm here to get a picture to show the world the truth. I'm here to make sure the truth is told, even if I die. And of course, that is the moment you have Tyrell about to kill Jimmy Olsen. But of course, that is the moment you have Superman save Jimmy Olsen and disappear. But of course, with Superman doing that, Tyrell now knows, oh, my target is here. My target is on this planet. Now, this leads into another flashback, and I like this flashback a lot because this tells us that Martha Kent was the one who made Superman's outfit. Now, what she tells us is that she did not make him a mask, and the reason why, because she says a mask hides your face, and the world needs to see your face. Because the world needs to know that you're not evil. The world needs to know that they can look to you for hope. They can look for you as protector of the planet. Now, the reason why she put an S on his chest is not because it's the family symbol of Krypton or anything, or it's Superman's Kryptonian family symbol. None of that. She put an S on his chest to represent sun. Because he is the son of the parents of Krypton. He is the son of them, Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent. He is the son of two different planets, Krypton and Earth. That is why she put the S on the chest. And so with that flashback, it's Superman now realizing what he has to do. He has to use his powers for the betterment of good. He has to use his powers to protect this world from Tyrell and this alien invasion. And so that is the moment you have Superman finally grab the outfit that his mom made him and puts it on. And this is where we see Clark Kent as Superman in the Earth 1 comics. Now, you do have Tyrell actually tell us that Superman is the last survivor of Krypton. He does tell us that right there. But Tyrell wants to be the one to actually kill Superman. Not anyone else, none of his robots, just him. He wants to be the one to actually kill Superman. But getting back to Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, they're seeing this. They're seeing Superman be Superman. He's out there right now picking up cars, destroying robots. He's doing all these different things. It's him saying, yes, I am here to protect you guys. I'm going to use all the powers I have as a way to make sure that you guys do not be murdered by this alien invasion that's being led by Homeboy right now. Now, of course, you did have Superman realize that he sees Tyrell, and Tyrell must be the one in charge of this alien invasion. And so while you have Superman heading towards Tyrell, you have Tyrell send a message to the rest of his race to say that he is going to finally complete their mission that they had started 20 years ago. And right when Superman is about to punch Tyrell, you have Tyrell just slap Superman with his tail. Or punch. I want to say more of a punch, but it does look like Tyrell used his tail as a way to make Superman fly back. But either way, you now have Superman fighting against Tyrell. This is one of the big battles of this book, and they're fighting against one another across Metropolis. I mean, there is a lot of damages being done, but of course, it's Superman trying to stop Tyrell. Now, while they're fighting against one another, you do have Tyrell say, listen, you have given me a lot of trouble because I've been looking for you for 20 years, and I have gone to different planets, and each of those planets I couldn't find you. But of course, I had to kill a lot of people to make sure that you were not on those planets. but now I found you now. I'm going to kill you. But before I do kill you, I want to make sure you know the actual truth. That right there is very huge, because now the question is, though, what does Tyrell mean, the actual truth? And you have Tyrell say, isn't it strange to you to know that your planet just randomly blew up? Like, that doesn't happen. Why would a core of a planet just blow up? That makes no sense. No, your planet did not just blow up because the core began to fall apart. No, your planet blew up because it was part of an assassination. My people wanted to get rid of your people. Now, you do have Tyrell kind of give us the origin of what happened to Krypton. And what Tyrell said is that basically his homeworld and Krypton, they used to be part of the same solar system. They used to basically rotate around the same sun, but they were neighbor planets. Now, of course, every 2 or 3 years, I forgot how many years, but when both planets were nearby each other, they would have a war. And of course, this war was all about the idea of Krypton wanting stuff that Tyrell's people have, and Tyrell's people wanted stuff that Krypton have. And so they would basically go to war between each other to kind of get what the other person wanted. And so it was a ridiculous war that would happen almost every single time the two planets were basically orbiting each other in their solar system. And so, of course, that means there were a lot of wars over the years until one particular character does come to the home world of Tyrell. Now, this particular character, we have no idea who he is, but what he does is he gives the people of Tyrell technology so advanced to help them get rid of their enemies. Now, again, we have no idea who is this mysterious bad guy that had basically helped the people of Tyrell, but they were able to give them technology to use to blow up Krypton, which of course they did. They blew up the core. Now, of course, some of the scientists did figure out that the core was dying, like Jor-El. But of course, by the time Jor-El could tell anybody at all, it was too late. And so he sent his son away, which was Clark Kent, away to Earth, and Krypton blew up. Now, you do have Tyrell actually tell Superman that his goal is to actually kill off Superman, but to punish this world. Because this world, Earth, basically sheltered you. And with that, they have to be punished. Now, of course, Earth had no idea that basically Superman crashed on their planet. I mean, the American government knew, but besides that, no one else knew. But either way, though, to Tyrell, they should also be punished. Now, while Tyrell is actually talking to Superman, is trying to keep Superman distracted, because that is the moment Superman realized what Tyrell is doing, which is that a bunch of drills are right now drilling into the core of the Earth, which of course meaning that he's getting ready to blow up the Earth, kind of like how he blew up Krypton. A little bit different, but he's going to get rid of the Earth for basically sheltering Clark Kent. And so you now have Clark Kent wanting to actually stop Tyrell's drills. Now, you do have Clark Kent try one more time to basically attack Tyrell, but that is the moment you have Tyrell actually hit Superman with some kind of sun energy. Now, when I say some kind of sun energy, what I mean is that out in the universe, you have different kinds of suns. Yellow suns, blue suns, red suns. There's different kinds of suns out there, and each sun does something different to Superman. Now, of course, we all know when it comes to the yellow sun, our sun, it gives Superman powers. Now, with that being said, though, what Tyrell did, he was able to absorb the different kinds of radiation each kind of sun gives out. And so with that, he knew back in their old universe, their old solar system that basically they had a red sun. And with the red sun, Kryptonians did not have any powers. Neither did Tyrell. And so what he did was he was able to absorb the red sun radiation and use it on Superman. It's kind of like a kryptonite for Superman right now, because there is no kryptonite right now in the storyline. And so you got to find a way to somehow weaken Superman. Well, of course, it's the red sun radiation that is right now weakening Superman. Now, with that being said, though, it does seem like Superman is about to lose. Now, there was another flashback where basically you had Jonathan Kent actually talk to Clark Kent about the idea of allies coming to his side to actually help him out. And so the reason why we're being told that right there, because while Superman is being hit with red sun radiation, yes, he's stuck there, but he does have people who can actually help him. And those people are Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. And what they do is they get a truck with a chain, and they were able to throw that chain into the red sun energy area so that Superman would be able to actually grab that chain. And as soon as he grabs that chain, then they can drive the truck out, which of course does pull Superman alongside with it so that he'll be able to be pulled out of that red sun radiation. And as soon as he's pulled out, bam, the yellow sun energy brings him right back to full power. Superman is ready to go for round 2 against Tyrell. And so, of course, it does lead into another battle between Superman and Tyrell. And this battle is pretty epic. It's pretty big, but it's only 2 pages long. And the reason why, because we actually have to jump back over to another thing that is basically happening right now. And of course, it's about the ship of Superman. Because that is the moment you actually do have the ship arrive to actually help Superman out. And when the ship does arrive to help Superman out, you do have the ship basically tell Superman the game plan on how they're going to bring down Tyrell. And so you have the ship being able to penetrate the main ship of Tyrell. And with that, that means that Superman can now be able to actually go inside and cause some heavy damage to the main ship of Tyrell. Now, of course, that also means that Tyrell would basically try to stop Superman. But here comes the problem, though. The part of the ship they're in right now, of course, is red starlight energy, red sun energy. And remember, red sun does weaken Superman, but it also weakens Tyrell. Because again, they're both from the same solar system. And so with that, right now, this entire room is red sun energy. But of course, it lets Superman be able to actually beat down on Tyrell. Now, of course, in the middle of their fight, a bunch of debris does fall on Tyrell, basically trapping him. He can't move because the red sun energy does weaken him. But with that being said, you do have Superman leaving Tyrell to basically die. Now, you do have Tyrell tell Superman, I'm just the first one. More are bound to come. And when they do, they're going to come after you and try to kill you in this entire world. And you have Superman say, let them come. Because if they do come, I'll be here to basically stop them. And then he jumps out of his ship in time, and then bam, the ship blows up. Now, this does actually begin the process of the story beginning to wind down. Now, one of the things you do have here is that the American government is now more bound, or more down, not bound, but more down with the idea to actually find Superman because they want to know more about him. And on top of that, they don't trust him. They feel like this whole entire alien invasion was basically a setup, that with Superman saving the day, then the American government would welcome Superman into their group. Then by then, when he's part of their group, then Superman would be able to take over the world. It's the American government being worried about the idea of even trusting Superman, to the point they tell Sandra Lee that now she has all the resources she needs to go find Superman and to bring him in. Now, this is the moment where you basically have Clark Kent actually go back to the Daily Planet. Now, when he does go back to the Daily Planet, that is also the moment where you have Jimmy Olsen share a picture that he took of Superman when he was Superman. And of course, you have Perry White super excited. He's like, oh my gosh, it's a great picture. But what do we call him? What's his name? And that is the moment you have Clark Kent actually step in and Clark Kent say, his name is Superman. And I had basically interviewed him earlier. And of course, Perry White's like, you did? Give me the story right now. Let's go. And so it's basically Superman joining the Daily Planet. Now, Lois Lane does question Clark Kent on how in the world he was able to interview Superman, but you have Lois Lane kind of back off a tad bit. But she's going to watch Clark Kent very closely. But you have Clark Kent say the reason why he chose to work here is because when he was Superman, but he doesn't tell Lois Lane that he was Superman. But when he was Superman, he saw Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen out there trying to fight for the truth, trying to get a story. And that right there kind of inspired him to basically come back to the Daily Planet. Now, the next question you guys are probably going to have is that what about the spaceship that brought Superman to Krypton? Because we have no idea what happened to that spaceship after Superman basically used it as a way to penetrate the main ship that belonged to Tyrell. Well, we come to find out that Superman took the ship somewhere in the Arctic. Now, you would think that would mean that basically this ship is going to turn into the Fortress of Solitude, but it doesn't. But the ship is going to begin the process of teaching Superman everything he needs to know about Krypton. Starting off with the idea that right now the ship is telling him he needs to avenge his dead world. Of course, talking about Krypton. But either way, this kind of does end the story for Earth 1, Volume 1 for Superman. Now, if you guys actually like this story a lot, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, I might actually cover Volume 2 of Superman, because I actually do own all 3 volumes. And like I said, I really do like Earth 1 Superman a lot. Pretty sure out of all the Earth 1 books, Superman and Green Lantern are the best ones. But with that being said, though, I do Now, the opening pages of Volume 2 basically does pick up, I want to say maybe like a couple days or weeks after the ending of Volume 1, because we basically pick up with Clark Kent right now very happy about the idea that his article that he wrote about himself, which is Superman, has been put in a glass container in the Daily Planet to show everyone how great the article was. And of course, it's Perry White telling him, you did a great job. Your article brought in a lot of money. But here comes the problem though. To be a reporter, it's easy to become one, but it's hard to stay as one, meaning that you're going to have a hard time trying to top this story. And the question is now, what are you going to do to basically top this story that you did about Superman? Now, that is the moment where we basically pick up with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. Now, with that being said, this is not a Lois Lane that's madly in love with Superman. And matter of fact, you could technically say right now that this is not a Lois Lane who even likes Clark Kent, because right now she's upset that Clark Kent was able to get an interview with Superman, because she has no idea as well that Clark Kent is Superman. Now, with that being said though, you do have her kind of dig up the history of Clark Kent to learn more about him. And what she learned is that basically he has C in every single class in high school. And for her, that's weird, because basically she's saying that he is somebody who has the ability to excel in almost anything he does, but instead he got a C in every single class. That right there is weird to her, and honestly, she's right. Now, of course, with Volume 2, we come to find out that basically Clark Kent did move into another apartment. And the reason why I'm pointing that out, because in Volume 1, he just moved in one apartment. But with Volume 2, he is moving into another. Now, of course, it could be the idea that basically he does have some more money now because he does work at the Daily Planet. But at the same time, though, I feel like he should be able to afford an even better apartment now. I don't know, it's weird. But either way, you have Clark Kent just finding a new apartment and actually happy about this apartment. Now, that is the moment where we basically pick up with a character known as Raymond Jensen. Now, Raymond Jensen is a character that we are going to learn more about down the road. But what you need to know about right now is that basically Raymond Jensen is a criminal. And he basically hired a guy named Willie who works at a lab nearby that Raymond wanted access to. And the reason why, because Willie was working on an experiment where basically there was some kind of machine that has the ability to destroy a human's body completely, not leaving a trace at all. And that right there is very dangerous for a criminal like Raymond. Somebody who wants to make sure when he does any kind of criminal activity, there's no way anything could be traced back to him. Now, with that being said, though, you have Raymond right now upset with Willie. And the reason why, because while Willie was giving Raymond all the different information he needed about that experiment, Raymond didn't allow Willie to join Raymond on other kinds of criminal activities, like murder. But of course, it was Raymond thinking that he could trust Willie, but he couldn't, because Willie then began to record those sessions, or he wrote down notes about Raymond. And of course, again, Raymond is a character who wants to make sure that any kind of criminal activity he does not get traced back to him at all. Unfortunately, with Willie recording things and also writing down things, is Raymond saying, I have to kill you now and blow up your entire house to make sure nothing gets back to me at all. And of course, you have Raymond do that. But then we get ready to see Clark Kent meeting some very interesting neighbors. Well, really just one. The first neighbor, honestly, is kind of like, yeah, he's there. And that character is Dylan. And we could basically say that Dylan is probably a dude who's on something, because the way he talked and the way he acted. Now, I could be wrong, but the way it seems DC is kind of portraying this character, it could be that right there. But the neighbor that Clark Kent is going to meet, well, actually does meet, and that's going to be around for this book, is Lisa LaSalle. Now, Lisa LaSalle is basically Clark Kent's neighbor. Now, with that being said, this is a different kind of girl that we as DC fans are used to seeing Clark Kent with. And what I mean is that for Clark Kent, we all know it's been Lois Lane. And anytime DC tries to kind of give us another girlfriend of Clark Kent, so like Lana Lang or even Wonder Woman, all those characters kind of fall into one particular group. When it comes to this character, she's a tad bit different, more outgoing, more free will. She's down for an adventure, and it's different for the usual thing Clark Kent has been with. With that being said, though, this girl is kind of like, hey, I'm your neighbor. We should totally hang out. And Clark Kent, he's fumbling with his words. Like, he is struggling. He's like, yeah, sure, I guess. Like, big time, homeboy is struggling. But either way, it's her saying, hey, you know what? You and I, let's go to the movies. It's a movie that I'm pretty sure you have not seen, which of course he has not. And he's like, yeah, I'm down. And so basically it's Clark Kent kind of setting up a date with Lisa, his neighbor. Again, this is going to be a character that's going to be around in this book, because it's the idea of, will Clark Kent get with Lisa, or down the road, will he get with Lois Lane? Now, we actually do pick back up with Raymond Jensen once again. And this time we see Raymond Jensen right now going to the laboratory that Willie worked at. Remember, Raymond killed Willie earlier when he blew up that house. Now, with that being said, he did steal the access card that Willie used as a way to access the laboratory. Now, as soon as Raymond gets inside the laboratory, you have Raymond go to Willie's lab to learn more about that experiment that Willie was working on. Now, we still have no idea why Raymond wants this experiment so bad, but either way, you do have Raymond try to learn more about it by going to Willie's computer in the lab. But here comes the problem though. Raymond accessed the lab after hours. And so, of course, when he used that key card to get inside and to also access the computer, of course, security got a ping. I have no idea what a ting is, but security got a ping saying like, hey, somebody just accessed the computer and that should not be happening because right now it's after hours. And so, of course, you do have security go down and see if Willie is actually here. And of course, it's not Willie, it's Raymond. And so, of course, you do have security begin to chase Raymond. Now, here's the thing though. Raymond basically turned on Willie's experiment to see what it could do. And so with that, he runs into the room where Willie's experiment is at. And remember, when it came to Willie's experiment, it basically destroys a human's body completely, not to leave a trace at all. And so again, you're kind of wondering why in the world would Raymond want that? Does he want to die and not be found ever again? But either way, when he's actually hit with the blast from Willie's experiment, his body does begin to fall apart, disappear. It seems like he is dying. And security, they're confused. They're like, oh my God, he's dead. But the very end of this section, we do see two hands just pop out to grab a security guard. Now, we actually do pick up with Clark Kent to see how that date is going with Lisa. And of course, the date does not go well. And the reason why, because you have Clark Kent's phone go off to inform him that some random city, town, country, whatever, is having a natural disaster. And so, of course, you basically have Clark Kent say, listen, I have to leave because, I'm Superman. I have to protect the entire world. Now, Lisa does not know he is Superman, and she believes the ping he got on his phone is basically some kind of big time story that he needs to cover. And so, of course, their date does have to be rescheduled. And of course, you do have Clark Kent run back home to his apartment and then change into his Superman outfit to show us that this is a Superman who's not just protecting Metropolis, but he's also protecting the entire world, just like the main DC universe does. Now, of course, that is the moment where we basically pick up with Lois Lane. Now, it seems like Lois Lane is on a date, and I'm pretty sure it's not Jimmy Olsen. For some strange reason, when I read this book again, I briefly thought it was Jimmy Olsen. But either way, it's just some guy she's hanging out with in her apartment. And honestly, it's not a date because what it seems like Lois Lane only calls him up when she wants to have some fun time. But basically, either way, you do have Lois Lane tell him to leave because she wants to learn more information about Clark Kent. And so what she does next is she basically hacks into the Daily Planet's personal information system to learn more about Clark Kent, to see if he is who he says he is. But that is the moment where we basically do pick up with Superman right now, going to the other country to kind of help out with that natural disaster. Now, of course, it's Superman, so he's able to actually handle this situation very quick and easily. The problem comes right after he does handle the natural disaster. And what I mean is that he basically is confronted by the war general. Now, this general is kind of the person in charge of the country. And basically what he says is that him and his military are not going to help the people that were affected by this natural disaster because these people were basically rebels who wanted to get rid of him because they hated him being in power. But of course, for Superman, he's kind of like, who cares? You should still be doing the right thing. But of course, for this war general, he's all like, no, I am not going to help these people. But on top of that, I want you to leave. If you don't leave, I will continue to kill more and more people who are just on the sideline, just badly injured. They're not close to death, but if they are, I'll go ahead and kill them. I will keep killing people left and right if you don't leave my country. Now, of course, for Superman, he can't believe that there are people out there in the world like this. But this is another lesson for Superman to learn that basically there are people out there, guys like him, who don't care about other people. He'd rather see other people suffer than to actually help them out because they don't like him. And that right there is a huge lesson for this Superman right here. Now, we actually do pick up with Lois Lane, and right now you have Lois Lane watching the news. Now, the news that she is watching is basically talking about the idea of why is Superman here? Like, why is he being a superhero? Is he doing it for the right reasons? Like, is the right thing to do to help people? Or is he doing this for fame? And of course, that is the big question that a lot of people have when it comes to the character of Superman. But either way, though, the news and probably other news are all talking about the same thing. But then that is the moment where we actually do get the chance to actually see Raymond Jensen in his new form. And of course, he became Parasite after going through that experiment. And so with that, Earth 1 Volume 2 gives us Parasite for Superman to fight. Now, they're not going to fight right now because, of course, you want to show off what Parasite can do in this universe. And basically, Parasite is a guy who wants to drain energy. Of course, almost any kind of energy. So electricity or even life energy. And so right now, you have this Parasite just going into a grocery store, absorbing electricity, but also absorbing life energy out of, like, I want to say 2 people. But either way, is Parasite now beginning to attack Metropolis? And the question is, though, when is Superman going to find out about this guy? But speaking about Superman, right now, you have Superman right now floating over Metropolis, but he's deep in thought because he's thinking about that war general that he met earlier, the one that did not want to help those poor people that were basically affected by that natural disaster. And right now, you have Superman thinking about actually killing off that war general. And that right there is huge because it's basically the book saying that Superman, he has the thought sometimes of killing people off because he feels like if he does kill someone off, it will make the world better. But of course, it's Superman realizing that he can't cross that line because if he does cross that line, he'll basically be just like them in his thought process. And so with that, he's kind of like, even though I know I killed off that war general, like if I went back there and blew up his entire military base and killed him and make that country better, it's still the wrong thing to do, which is to kill. But then we actually pick up with Lois Lane right now on the phone with one of Clark Kent's old teacher from Smallville High. Now, of course, this is Lois Lane continuing trying to learn more about Clark Kent because she believes that he's hiding something. And of course, this is a teacher that's kind of telling Lois Lane what she already knows about Clark Kent. Not like, I want to say she does give Lois Lane some new information, but basically all the new information that she gets from this teacher is kind of telling Lois Lane that she was right. And what I mean is that, remember, Lois Lane said earlier that when it came to Clark Kent, he seemed like a guy who wants to excel in everything he does. And he actually does have the ability to actually excel in everything he does. But for some strange reason, he holds back. He holds back to basically hide from the world. And why does he do that? And so you have the teacher say the same thing, that basically Clark Kent just wanted to hide from the world. He had the ability to get all A's on, any kind of test. He had a high IQ. He could do anything he wanted to do. But for some strange reason, he held back. Even when it came time for him to find a girlfriend for one of the school dances, again, he just did not make a move. It's like he wanted the entire world not to notice that he was there. And so, of course, it's Lois Lane realizing, yeah, Clark Kent is hiding something. Now, of course, while she's on the phone with this teacher at work at the Daily Planet, next to her in his own little cube is, of course, Clark Kent using his super hearing to basically hear that entire conversation. Now, of course, that is the moment where we basically pick up with Parasite once again. Now, of course, right now, you have Parasite kind of just thinking. He's thinking about his past. He's wondering what happened in the past that basically led him down this path. And of course, with that being said, you kind of had the story give us the origin of Raymond Jensen as Parasite. Now, when I say the origin, it's not the complete origin. It's only like, a few pages of his origin when he was young. And what I mean is that basically when Raymond was young, he was a kid who was always getting into trouble. He was always fighting against other kids. On top of that, he has been expelled from 3 other schools. So this kid had caused a lot of problems for his mom and dad growing up. But one thing he always did was protect his little sister. He cared for his little sister. But the point of this flashback of the origin of Raymond Jensen is to point out that basically everybody looked at him like he was a monster, not a child, not a human being, not some kid who needed some help, that basically he was a monster. And so when he goes back into the present day and he looks around and see what he did to that store, killing off people, absorbing their life energy and absorbing electricity, that basically the police will look at him as a monster, like the people did in the past. But either way, you have him say he needs more energy, and Metropolis has that energy. Now, we do get a page where basically we see the American government having a meeting with Sandra Lee. Now, remember, Sandra Lee was a character in our last video who basically was studying the spaceship that brought Superman to Earth when Krypton blew up. Now, of course, when he did arrive in Metropolis, the spaceship began to kind of do different things because it felt Clark Kent nearby. Now, with those things being said, though, basically right now, you have the American government kind of bringing up what we talked about earlier in our last video, where basically now you have the public wondering, what should they do with Superman? What should the military do with Superman? And so right now, we basically pick up with the idea that you have Sandra Lee telling the American government, we need to find a way to kill Superman just in case he does go crazy. Now, of course, we do get another page where basically you have Superman run into that guy who basically just kind of sits out in front of their apartment building, Dylan. And of course, Dylan wants Superman, or Clark Kent, to write a story about him. And of course, you have Clark say, I'll do it later. But you do have Clark use his X-ray vision to see that basically this guy is a drug addict, which is something we saw earlier in this book. But of course, you then have this guy tell Clark Kent that Lisa, the girl that Clark went on a date with earlier, is looking for him. And also, it seems like Lisa has been talking a lot about Clark in the way of saying like she really does like Clark. And so, of course, that leads into what I call a redo on the first date between Clark and Lisa. But this actually brings up a very important topic for the character of Superman. And what I mean is that while you have Lisa call Clark over to her apartment to have dinner, she does kind of says, hey, listen, I need to go change and basically put on something more comfortable. And we all know what that line means right there. But basically, before they're able to actually eat and after they kiss, she does go change. And you have Clark Kent have this flashback. Now, this flashback is all about the idea that Clark Kent remembers what his father told him. That basically, when it comes to having some fun time with the lady, you have to be careful because you have super strength. You could possibly hurt someone when you're doing that extra activity with a woman. And so right now we're basically seeing Clark Kent wondering if he'll be able to actually have fun tonight with Lisa or not without possibly hurting her. And of course, that has kind of been a thing some fans wondered when it came to him and Lois Lane, or really him and any other woman. And DC kind of gave us different examples of kind of like him having a kid with other characters. But again, it's kind of like still something fans, not all fans, a very certain amount of friends who kind of wonder about that. Now, we do get another page where basically we see that Parasite has arrived in Metropolis, which means that we're about to get a battle between Superman and Parasite, but of course, not just yet. And the reason why, because we do jump back over to Superman and Lisa on their date. And basically, this is Lisa and Superman kind of learning more about each other. Where, of course, you have Superman bring up the idea of pets, wondering if Lisa ever had one or does she have one now. And of course, she tells Superman, no, I don't have a pet, never had one, blah, blah, blah. But then you have Clark Kent tell her about his cat. Now, of course, this was a cat that he basically saved, and then he grew up with that cat. And so he was kind of able to build a bond with that cat. And this is very important because remember, when it comes to Clark Kent, we have been told so far that this dude never had a friend. That basically all he had was his mom and his dad, and now this cat. So this cat was kind of like his best friend. He really had no one else to go and talk to. Now, of course, with all that being said, the cat died after being with Clark for so many years, and you had Clark actually bury the cat on the moon as a kind of special way to say the cat is always looking over me and brightening up my day in some kind of way. And of course, you have Lisa actually cry because for her, it was a very, sensitive story, because right after that, you then have Clark tell her, did my dad die last year? So like this dude lost his cat. That was his best friend. And his dad died just a previous year ago. Now, with that being said, that tells us that Earth 1, Volume 1 and Volume 2 both take place in the same month, possibly. Heck, probably same 2 or 3 months. But either way, you do have Lisa feel bad for Clark. But then that is the moment you have Clark hear something going on in Metropolis. So you have Clark just give her some bad excuse. Honestly, I forgot what it was. He gives her a bad excuse. He runs into the room over. He does change into Superman and fly to find out what in the world is going on. But when he gets there, of course, that is the moment he is confronted by Parasite. Now, when it comes to Parasite, we have to remember Parasite is kind of like a different kind of villain for Superman to deal with. Because in our last Earth 1 video, basically Tyrell was kind of like Superman, a guy who gets power from the yellow sun, and all he has is super strength, super speed, all that. And so Superman was able to actually deal with the villain that's very similar to his power set. But when it comes to Parasite is not like Superman. Parasite drains energy. And so, of course, with Superman, that means he has to find a different way to actually deal with Parasite. And that is a very big task to actually think up and try to figure out how to do. And so either way, you do have Superman fight against Parasite. But while the two characters are fighting against one another, and their fight does last for a few pages, we are seeing Superman struggle to fight against Parasite, because Parasite keeps absorbing the life energy of Superman. And really, when he absorbs the energy of Superman, of course, he's actually draining the powers of Superman. Now, not like his actual powers. It's not like Parasite gets heat vision, the frost breath, and super speed. But when he drains the energy of Superman, he's basically draining the yellow sun energy that gives Superman his powers. And so basically we're seeing Superman struggle so much against Parasite that he honestly does not have a choice but to go ahead and tell himself he has to get away and come back with a different game plan. Now, of course, this looks bad on Superman because now it looks like he's running away. But the problem is, though, he has no choice. If he stays here, he'll die, and Parasite will be too strong for anyone else to possibly stop down the road. Now, we do get a page where basically we see that Superman does fly over to what his version in this universe of Fortress of Solitude. And honestly, it's not as big as the one we see in the main DC universe. It's really small, but inside this fortress, it's basically holding the ship that brought Superman to Earth. But it's also Superman asking the ship if the ship has the ability to make him some kind of shielding to help him deal with Parasite. And of course, the ship say maybe, but hey, I don't know if it's going to work actually, but I do need some time. And for Superman, he's kind of like, well, how much time you need, ship? Because I need that shielding right now because he's still Metropolis, causing a lot of problems. Now, you do have the news in Metropolis telling everybody in the area that basically the monster known as Parasite is Raymond Jensen, because I guess they were able to kind of look at security systems at the laboratory where you had Raymond turn into Parasite. But either way, you have the news telling everybody in Metropolis that this is Raymond Jensen. And the reason why I'm pointing this out, because you actually have the sister of Raymond watching the news. And remember what I said earlier, that basically Raymond always protected his sister. But of course now his sister is scared of him because now she's seeing her brother on the news just causing havoc all over the place. Now, of course, you do have the military actually step in because they have no choice. Superman's not there to fight against Parasite. And matter of fact, some people actually saw Superman fight against Parasite and they watched him got his butt kicked by Parasite. And so, of course, the military has to step in to protect Metropolis. The problem is, though, the military can't do anything to Parasite. Parasite is just too strong, and he's getting stronger by the moment with him going around just draining things left and right. It's showing how difficult of a character this guy is. It's something different for Superman to actually deal with. And so with that being said, it's kind of like, what can the military do? Now, as you have Parasite walking around basically Metropolis, he does step on a newspaper, which of course on the front page is an article about Clark Kent being Superman. And so right now it's kind of Parasite wondering if he goes over to the Daily Planet, will he find any kind of information that could lead him over to Superman to get more of that energy that he loved draining from Superman? And of course, you basically do have Parasite go to the Daily Planet to begin the process of kind of torturing Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, and Lois Lane for information. Now, he doesn't actually torture them, but that's his goal. He is going to torture them to get any kind of information about Superman because he believes that these people know that basically where Superman is at. Now, again, now Parasite needs Superman for the energy that Superman carries because Parasite constantly needs energy to feed that hunger, but to also make him stronger. And so right now, because he's been gone from Superman from a long period of time, all of that energy he took earlier is gone. And so you have Parasite back to his like small state again. And so that is why he's so keen on finding Superman to basically get that energy again, to be strong again like he was earlier. Now, of course, you have Superman come back to basically save Lois Lane from Parasite to take their battle outside once again. Now, of course, this battle between Superman and Parasite is literally going the same way as the fight did earlier, where Superman is not really able to fight against Parasite because Parasite does have the ability to absorb the energy from Superman. And so while you have these two characters fighting against one another and they're going back and forth between one another, it's really more of Parasite winning this fight because he's able to actually absorb the life energy of Superman. Except this time, he absorbs a lot of energy from Superman, where basically you have Superman almost and probably is completely drained of energy, of solar energy. And with all that energy being drained, Parasite is really strong. And so now, here comes the scary part. If Superman cannot stop Parasite, then who can? And if he just absorbed all the life energy, or really the solar energy from Superman, then definitely who can stop Parasite? It's a very small room of names right now who can actually stop Parasite. And really, with Earth 1, there are no names. And so technically right now, the world is doomed. Metropolis is doomed because Parasite is just too strong to be stopped. Now, for Clark Kent, he's basically defeated. He can't do anything. He has been completely drained of energy. And so right now you have Clark Kent just wandering around Metropolis. But he realized that's even more dangerous because now you have people out there who might try to look at him and figure out who he is. And so you have Superman take off his clothes, hid his clothes somewhere so that nobody can find it, and puts on some regular clothes, and he tries to go home. But of course, on his way home to his apartment, he's struggling to get there because he lost so much energy from Parasite. He's literally bleeding all over the place. But of course, he does not go to his apartment. He goes to Lisa's apartment instead. But then we actually pick back up with Parasite. And right now, Homeboy is just out in space chilling. But of course, the military, they want to get rid of Parasite. And so you have Lee Sanders tell her military team to fire, I want to say it's a nuke, I could be wrong, but they're hoping to actually kill off Parasite. But here comes their problem again. Parasite is a character who's just constantly absorbing energy. He's something new for the world to handle. He's something different for Superman to handle. And so with that, Parasite is a character you just can't defeat that easily. And so with that missile, of course, you have Parasite take it like it's no big deal. Like this dude's kind of like, yes, send more things at me. Let me absorb more and more energy. Make me so strong that basically nothing in the world can stop me. Now, we actually do pick up with Superman once again because remember, after his battle against Parasite, Homeboy crashed right in front of Lisa's apartment. But either way, you do have Lisa waking up Superman, and he's kind of like, oh my God, where am I? And you have her tell Superman, like, hey, you're my apartment, you crashed here, I was able to change your clothes, your bruises are all gone. Like, dude, you almost completely heal up. It's crazy how fast you healed up. Now, of course, this is kind of Lisa wondering more about Superman. She's kind of wondering if Clark Kent is Superman because how fast he basically healed up. And honestly, that's a good question for someone like her to ask. You just basically save a guy and you're watching him heal up very fast. Of course, you'd be very concerned on how in the world this guy is able to do that so fast and quickly. Now, we do get this page where basically you have the sister of Parasite arriving into Metropolis to hopefully find her brother, to hopefully be able to actually stop her brother, because she has been watching the news. She knows that's her brother out there causing havoc in Metropolis. And right now, you have almost every single person in Metropolis trying to leave. And so when she arrived at the airport, you have everyone wondering why in the world is she trying to go into Metropolis when she needs to leave Metropolis. But of course, it's her saying, I'm trying to find my brother. And so she does continue on to go into Metropolis. But then we jump back over to Superman, who does go to his version of the Fortress of Solitude. Now, when he gets there, of course, he does check up on his ship to see if his ship was able to make some kind of shielding to basically help him fight against Parasite. Where, of course, you do have the ship tell Superman that it was able to actually create some kind of shielding to help protect him while he fights against Parasite. And so we do have this cool image of Superman wearing some cool, very, very cool looking armor. Not really armor. Yeah, I guess it is armor. But a cool armor suit to basically help protect him while he fights against Parasite. But then we actually do jump over to Parasite, because right now you have Parasite going back to the Daily Planet. And the reason why? Because he's trying to use Jimmy Olsen as a way to be bait to bring Superman back out so that he can drain more energy from Superman. Because remember, Parasite constantly needs energy. And so, of course, it's him hoping that by using Jimmy Olsen, Superman will come back out and he'll be able to actually absorb the energy of Superman once again. But of course, right at the moment where you have Parasite getting ready to kill off Jimmy Olsen, you have Superman actually appear to save Jimmy Olsen. Now, this fight is completely different when it comes to Superman fighting against Parasite. And the reason why, because Parasite can no longer drain the energy from Superman. Because as long as Superman is wearing that bodysuit that the ship gave him earlier, basically Parasite is unable to actually access the energy of Superman. And so, of course, it does give Superman the edge he needs to hopefully win this battle. Now, it's not like this suit can last forever. And matter of fact, the ship did tell Superman, this suit I'm giving you, this armor, it's not going to protect you forever. It's going to fall apart, especially with Parasite still kind of have some energy from you last time to use against you. And so when he does give you blow to blow with his punches, of course, it will damage the suit and that suit will break apart. And when it does, you're basically screwed all over again. And so, of course, it's Superman trying to hopefully wrap this battle up very quickly. But of course, their battle is getting to that point where the armor suit that the ship gave to Superman is about to fall apart completely. Except that is the moment you have Parasite actually see his sister. And remember, his sister was the only person he actually cared for. And so, of course, when he sees her, he stops. He's like, oh my God, it's my sister. The person he always wanted to protect. And right now he wants to hold her. But here comes the problem though. When he holds her, of course, he basically kills her. Because when it comes to Parasite, when he's always touching someone or something, he's draining that energy. And so, of course, he drained enough energy to basically kill his own sister. Now, really, the fight does get wrapped up very quickly, and what I mean by that, as soon as Parasite realized that he killed his sister, his attention went right back to Superman, and he feels like it is Superman's fault for the death of his sister, even though it's not Superman's fault. But either way, you do have Parasite try to fight against Superman one more time, except you have Superman do one more punch to basically send Parasite flying across Metropolis to basically knock him out, and the day is saved. Parasite has been defeated by Superman. Now, you would basically think that this would be the end of the story because Parasite has been defeated. Parasite has been put away. But of course, there is a whole lot more we have to talk about, including the idea that when Superman talks to his mother, Martha. Now, of course, this is him telling his mother that basically he realized that he needs to change, that basically he needs to do things differently. And what he means by that is he realized that he can't keep pushing people away. He can't put that distance between him and people. It's time for him to let people into his life because he's constantly alone and he's tired of being alone. And so it's kind of like him saying, maybe it's time for me to make friends. Also, the possibility of me having a girlfriend. And so this is Clark Kent saying, it's time for me to change my ways finally. But then that is the moment we come to find out that basically Lisa has a very abusive boyfriend or guy friend, whatever, because this dude was not in the storyline earlier, but of course he does show up now at this point of the story. Now, of course, he could have been locked away in prison or whatever, but basically he came back to abuse her. And so, of course, you have Clark Kent using his Superman powers to basically super speed into the room to grab him and to basically take him all the way to Alaska. It's Superman leaving him in the middle of Alaska to figure out how to get back to Metropolis. But when he does get back to Metropolis, he has to remember to stay away from Lisa. And so, of course, this guy is freaking out because he was just basically grabbed and taken to Alaska in a blink of an eye. Now, when Superman took that guy out of Lisa's apartment, he left a pair of glasses in there. And of course, she knows it belongs to Clark. Now, you do have Lisa basically stop by the apartment of Superman, where, of course, you do have Lisa return the pair of glasses that he did leave behind when he did use his superpowers as a way to grab her boyfriend and take him to Alaska. But that is the moment you actually have Lisa tell Superman that that was not her boyfriend, or really it was, who knows. But basically, you have Lisa finally tell us that to make ends meet, sometimes on the side, she does some random hookups, basically sex work. And so right now, it's her saying that she never told Clark because she was afraid of the idea that he may look at her in a different way and no longer like her. And Lisa really does like Clark and wants to be with him. And so you have Clark say, listen, that's your life. That was your choices. But I'm not going to take your choices and judge you in a way where I can no longer like you. You made your choices, and honestly, I don't understand why, but I still going to be here for you. And so it's kind of him saying we could be friends and possibly see where it goes to see if we could possibly become a couple down the road. Now, you then have Superman go back to that country where he basically did save that country from a natural disaster, but he ran into that war general. And remember, that war general basically told Superman that he was not going to help the people in that area of that country that was affected by the natural disaster. And so you have Superman actually go back and you have Superman tell this guy that what he did was he basically gave the rebels guns, a bunch of guns, powerful military weapons to help them overthrow this war general. On top of that, he took guns away from the war general side to basically make him an easy target. So now those rebels are on their way to basically kill off the war general. And Superman is not going to do a thing at all to stop them. He's going to let those guys do what they wanted to do in the first place. And of course, they do kill that guy off. Now, of course, when Superman gets back to his apartment building after buying some groceries, well, that is the moment he sees police and a fire station ambulance outside his building, and he's wondering what happened. And that is the moment you have Lisa actually tell him that basically Eddie died. And Eddie was the character we saw who was always outside the apartment building, but just on drugs all the time. Well, of course, he died from an overdose. And so with that being said, it's Clark Kent wondering maybe if he had actually wrote that story about Eddie, would Eddie still be alive? Because what Lisa tells Clark is that it seemed like Eddie just wanted to be discovered, that Eddie wanted to be found by somebody. He wanted his story shared. Now, when Superman goes inside Eddie's apartment, he comes to find out that Eddie was a huge fan of Superman, but also he was begging Superman to save him from his drug addiction. But then we have to build up to volume 3. And what I mean by that is we basically do pick up with the military, Sandra Lee introducing herself to Lex Luthor, but to also his wife, Alexandra Luthor. The Luthor family is about to come after Clark Kent. And so, yes, we are finally going to see Lex Luthor in the Earth 1 universe going after Superman. Now, basically, of course, we do get another section of the Daily Planet where, of course, it's the book trying to wrap everything up, but also set up volume 3, where basically you have Clark Kent kind of try to give Perry White a story. And of course, the story is about Eddie, the guy who died from the drugs. But of course, Perry White does not really want to publish the story because to him, everybody dies. people die every day in Metropolis. So why should he basically publish a story about one kid who died from a drug overdose? But of course, it's Clark Kent just trying to get that story out there because there are people like Eddie who wants to be heard. They want their story shared with the world to show what's happening to them right now. And of course, if that story does get out, it can basically help them kind of fight what they have going on. Now, on top of that right there, you do have Lois Lane also telling Jimmy Olsen that basically she's going to shelf the investigation she was doing on Clark Kent because right now she feels like maybe there's not enough information out there to grab on him, but also her opinion is beginning to change about Clark Kent. Now, again, this is not her kind of like falling in love with the character. It's more of her kind of giving him, how to say it, it's kind of her realizing that he's a good guy. That, yes, he's hiding something, but whatever he's hiding is his secret. But at least he's still out there trying to be a good reporter. It's her kind of giving him a small break. Now, of course, that is the moment you have Clark Kent actually get a phone call from his old teacher. And remember, Lois Lane called this teacher a while back to get information about Clark Kent. But of course, she told that teacher it was kind of like a reference to see if she should be hired or he should be hired for the job at the Daily Planet. And so when she calls up Clark, she tells Clark, yeah, this girl named Lois Lane, she called me asking a lot of questions about you. And I told her almost all the things you wanted her to know. But yeah, she asked some very deep personal questions, man. And so it's Clark realizing that Lois Lane was basically investigating him. And he's kind of like, why? Why is she doing that? Now, the ending of this book basically does pick up with Lex Luthor and his wife Alexandra Luthor. Now, the way the book closes is really more of telling us that Lex Luthor was not really intrigued in killing Superman like he is in the main DC universe. Instead, it's actually Alexandra Luthor who's really intrigued on how to kill Superman. Even though she says he's probably a good guy, the question is, how do you kill someone who's just so unbeatable? He's hard to kill. And so right now, it's kind of us learning from DC that it's really more of Alexandria wanting to kill Superman, not Lex. Now, of course, he does agree to help her because that is his wife. And of course, when the military did offer them the job to kill Superman, the military did offer them a lot of money. And so right now, this is kind of saying Volume 3 is going to be Superman versus the Luthor family. But now, the opening pages of Volume 3 basically tease us with the idea that we do not know everything about Krypton. And what I mean is that, so with the first two volumes, we basically thought we learned everything about Krypton, like how it was destroyed because it was part of a war with another planet. And the main bad guy in Volume 1, Tyrell, was from that planet that basically wiped out Krypton. Now, Tyrell told us that basically him and his people were given a weapon to help them wipe out Krypton. Now, we have no idea who that person was, but with the opening pages of Volume 3, we are left to believe that basically Jor-El, the Kryptonian father of Superman, actually knew the person who gave the weapon to Tyrell and called that person a madman, basically blaming that person for the end of Krypton. And of course, it's Jor-El saying they had no choice but to send their son away to save his life. And of course, we all know how it ends. Superman was able to escape Krypton to basically end up on Earth. But the question is, though, who is the person that gave Tyrell that weapon? And if Jor-El knew that person, did Jor-El have the chance to actually stop that person? But then we come to find out those moments right there in the opening pages, it was actually Clark Kent having a dream, or a nightmare really, about the end times of Krypton, what he actually remembered as a baby as he was about to be sent off into space to go to Earth. But of course, when he wakes up, he freaks out because it's a nightmare. It's basically you remembering something when you were a baby, but of course it's a bad memory, not a good one. And of course it's basically when your home world blew up. It is a nightmare. And so when he wakes up, of course he does damage the wall in his apartment, which of course does freak out the landlord. And so you do have Clark Kent have to hurry and fix the wall before his landlord walks in. And of course, by the time the landlord does walk in, Superman was already able to fix the wall and everything does seem like A-okay. Of course, we know it's honestly not, because he had a nightmare about something in the past that he just now remembered, which of course could unlock more secrets for him down the road. Now, of course, we actually do pick up with the American government and also the American military right now basically having a meeting about Superman. Now, this meeting is actually very important because it reminds us that the military is very scared of Superman because they watch him fight against Tyrell, they watched him fight against Parasite, and of course, with those two fights, he has done a lot of damage, but on top of that, it's also them saying, look how powerful he is. He's somebody that can't be stopped so easily. And so with that, you kind of have the American government saying, we should technically kill him before he turns against us. Because if he does, there is no way that we can actually stop him. Now, that is true. If he does turn, they can't stop him. But on top of that as well, they still haven't actually tried to communicate with him. If they had actually tried to communicate with him, maybe he could work with the government and the military. But either way, you have the American government and military bring in Lex Luthor. And of course, in this universe, Lex Luthor is actually married. And her name is Alexandria Luthor, the wife of Lex Luthor. Now, they're both very intelligent, except Lex Luthor is a tad bit more, I want to say, than Alexandria. Now, as this story goes on, you're going to realize that Lex Luthor is completely different than his main DC universe counterpart. And you see what I mean as we go through this book. But basically right now, you have the military bring them in to kind of have them work on the project that could technically kill off Superman. Because in the last volume, Superman actually helped a country become, well, better. But of course, the way he did it was actually kind of wrong in a way to the American government. Because what Superman did was he helped a rebel group get a bunch of guns and other kind of weapons to overthrow their president. And in that country, it did get better, but the way it was done was kind of messed up to the eyes of the American government. And so that is why Lex Luthor and Alexandria Luthor were brought here to find a way to kill off Superman before he basically turns evil. And so what you have the Luthors tell us is that they were actually able to figure out why Tyrell almost won. Because remember, back in Volume 1, Tyrell could have won that battle because he did use a ray gun, not a ray gun, but some kind of energy blast that had the red sun energy that basically makes Superman a regular person. It was sending out red sun energy. And so you have Lex tell the military and the government that basically with Superman, when he's on Earth, our Earth, he has a yellow sun. And of course, it gives him power. But when he's in a red sun, he has no power. And so if we're able to hit him with a red sun energy blast, he's basically a regular human being, which of course then gives us the ability to kill him off. Now, we do get a page where basically we see that there was a second spaceship able to escape Krypton right after it blew up. Sorry, not right after, right before it blew up. Thank you. Either way, though, with this second spaceship being out there, now we know there's someone else from Krypton still alive. The question is, though, who? That's the big question right now. Now, of course, it could be almost anybody because when it came to Earth 1 comics, Again, the writers had more freedom, and Tyrell was a character that was actually never invented before in the main DC universe. He was a brand new character made for Earth 1 comics. And so with that, it's kind of like, it could be Supergirl, it could be Zod, it could be anybody, it could be technically a new character. And so that's right there is kind of like, who survived after Krypton blew up? Who is it? That's the big question right now. Now, you do have the book basically remind us about Lisa. Now, remember, Lisa was introduced to us in the last volume as the new neighbor to Clark Kent in his new apartment. Now, with that being said, I found online that a lot of people did not like Lisa a lot because she is not Lois Lane. And you see what I mean as we go through this book. But basically, in the last volume, Lisa actually tried to date Clark Kent. The problem was, though, Clark Kent. He was the problem because Clark his entire life kept everybody away from him because he was afraid that something bad could possibly happen to them or they could find out his secret, which is that he is not from Earth. And so he kept everybody in arm's distance. Now, with that being said, though, Lisa then kind of still tried her best to get close to Clark Kent, which she was able to do, except being the girlfriend. Right now, they're just friends. Also, Clark kind of knows her secret, that basically she is a sex worker on the side to make money. And so this is her kind of like, hey, I try to date you. You don't want to date me. Okay, fine. Can we be friends? And yes, they are friends. And honestly, it's a great thing for Clark because he never had a friend and he's working on basically learning how to be a friend. Now, she does leave his apartment, but when she does leave behind an earring. Now, that is the moment where we basically jump over to the Daily Planet, where, of course, we actually pick up with Clark Kent and Jimmy Olsen. Now, with that being said, though, this is kind of like your usual conversation between the two characters in this universe. But with that being said, this is Clark Kent finding out that basically Lois Lane was investigating Clark Kent. Because when he arrived, he was a mysterious person. There was no information about him to be found almost anywhere. On top of that right there, right after Superman had fought against Tyrell, you had Clark Kent basically publish a story about himself, saying that he was able to get an interview with Superman. And of course, a lot of people at first did not want to believe him, but it's kind of like, maybe he actually did. And so Lois Lane was kind of like, you know what? I am going to basically try to find out more information about Clark Kent. And so she began the process of actually interviewing different people who used to know Clark Kent in the past, like teachers. And they all said the same thing. When it came to Clark Kent, he had the ability to do a lot of different things. But to keep his life a secret, he basically just pretended to be average in sports, in school, in almost anything to keep himself from being found out by anybody. But with that being said, Lois Lane kind of dropped her investigation because she's kind of like, maybe he's just a regular guy who was just a regular person his entire life. And he actually got lucky one time by interviewing Superman. Now, that is also the moment where you have Superman find out that basically someone is flashing a light in the sky with his symbol on it. Of course, it's just like how Gotham calls Batman, with the light in the sky. And so you do have Superman fly over there to see who in the world is trying to get a hold of him. And of course, it's Lois Lane. Now, again, folks were very upset with Volume 3. And the reason why, because they're really hoping that something would happen with Clark Kent and Lois Lane. And maybe because DC was trying to move away from the whole Lois Lane and Clark Kent thing, because in the New 52, Superman dated Wonder Woman. And so maybe DC was really trying their best to really not have the same old relationship happen again in any Superman comic, because it was not Lois Lane and Superman in this book right here. But either way, though, the reason why you have Lois Lane talking to Clark is because she's basically telling him, hey, listen, I got word from my source in the military that right now the military wants to come and attack you. Like they're plotting to basically come after you because what they saw you do in the last two moments, which again was Tyrell and also Parasite, they are very scared of you. You have caused billions of dollars of damages. On top of the fact, with Parasite in the last volume, there were some nukes dropped as well. Now, of course, those nukes were not your fault. That was the military. But they're blaming you for everything because this world, this entire planet, was peaceful. But as soon as you arrived, as soon as you popped up, a lot of things started happening left and right. Tyrell and Parasite are the two examples we have right now. And so basically, it's Lois Lane saying, you are on a very slippery slope. You have to do something to prove to the government and the military that you're somebody that they can trust. Or instead, they will come after you. And when they do, it is not going to be a great thing at all. But of course, it's kind of them also saying, listen, let's build a bond here, a friendship bond. Like right now, it's Lois Lane kind of being like the James Gordon for Superman in a way, where it's kind of like, I'm here to give you intel on things you need to know that need to be handled. And right now, you need to handle your problems with the military and also the government. Then you have the book remind us about that second spaceship that's been in space that had basically escaped Krypton all those years ago, but has just been traveling in space for so long. And of course, that spaceship does crash down on Earth. And of course, this gives us a moment to actually learn who this person is, because as soon as he gets out of the spaceship, the yellow sun gives him his powers. And of course, it's so much for him to handle at once, but then he passes out. But of course, this is Zod. Zod is the other main bad guy of this book. It's him arriving on Earth. And of course, it's Zod going to make things a whole lot worse for Superman. Now, we do pick up with Clark Kent right now confronting Lois Lane. Now, remember, the reason why you have Clark Kent being, well, Clark Kent, and confronting Lois Lane, because remember, earlier he found out that basically Homegirl has been kind of investigating him, trying to learn more about him. And of course, he did not like that. Now, of course, when he does confront Lois Lane, you have Lois Lane tell him why she did it. Like, basically, it's more of the fact that he's mysterious. Nobody knows much about him. And that's the problem. Because nobody knows much about him, she felt like he was hiding something. On top of the fact that basically he was able to get an interview with Superman himself, actually, that it's really weird how he was the one to get it, but nobody else has. No one except him. And only that one time. But you do have her kind of say, you know what, we'll just go ahead and leave things be, because she's basically going to back off for now. But of course, we all know Lois Lane doesn't really let things just back off, really. So honestly, if there was a volume 4, she would have basically found out that Clark Kent is Superman. Now, of course, we do jump back over to Zod. Now, right now, you have Zod waking up. But when Homeboy wakes up, of course, he is confronted by the military. Now, with the military basically getting close to him, they begin to attack him. But with him now being on Earth near a yellow sun, of course, that means that now Zod has all the same powers as Superman. And so he's able to take every single hit from the military like it's nothing. It's him getting used to the idea of having these powers to use as a way to kind of attack other people or to defend himself. Now, of course, the question is though, is Zod good or bad though in this universe? Because usually when Zod appears, yes, he's a bad guy right off the bat. But the question is though, in this one, is he good or bad? But either way, as he wipes out the military that was sent here to stop him, he just leaves. Now we do jump back over to Lisa. Remember, Lisa is the girl who basically lives next to Clark Kent in his new apartment complex, who did like him in the last volume, but of course because Clark Kent is, well, Clark Kent in this universe, he basically keeps her in arm's distance, but of course they're still friends. It's him kind of learning how to be a friend to her. But you do have her with the landlord right now because she needs to get inside his apartment. Because remember, she left an earring behind, and that earring is very important for this moment right here, because while she goes inside his apartment because the landlord basically lets her inside the place, well, that is the moment she goes into his closet. And when she goes into the closet, she finds the Superman outfit. She now knows that Clark Kent is Superman, and this is huge. It is very, very huge. Now, we do jump back over to Lex Luthor and his wife. Now, this is why I said earlier that basically this Lex Luthor is not like his wife. And what I mean by that is earlier Lex Luthor kind of gave us a hint that he was not actually comfortable with the idea of killing Superman. Even though the military brought him and his wife in, even though the military said, hey man, we'll give you a lot of money if you basically go ahead and kill off Superman, he was still not okay with it. And the reason why? Because it's murder. That right there is very huge. Now, his wife, she's down. She's like, hey, we're going to get a lot of money for it. So why not go ahead, basically make a weapon, use the weapon, get the money, and we're even richer than we were earlier. Like, come on, dude. But it's still Lex Luthor kind of like, no. It's murder. Even though we're doing this for science or to protect the world or whatever, it is still murder. And that right there is very huge because usually Lex Luthor is the bad guy of the books, but this time he's not. But either way, you can see that the way Alexandria is kind of controlling Lex because of her being his wife, anytime he has any doubts, she's kind of playing mind games with him. She knows how to be toxic. But either way, though, basically, she's able to calm her husband down to kind of agree with the idea of actually doing it. Now, we do jump back over to Clark Kent, who's right now with Lisa. Now, of course, Lisa is hoping that Clark Kent will basically tell her everything she wants to know. That right now he's Superman. Like, that's what she wants him to say. Like, hey, listen, if you're hiding a secret, it's okay to tell me. Like, if you kept that secret in a closet or if you're trapped in the closet, just go ahead and tell me. Tell me that you are basically Superman. Like, she wants that so bad. But it's Clark Kent kind of like, interesting questions you're asking right now. I'm kind of confused. What are you talking about? Now, at the same time, you could say that this is Superman being very protective over his secret. But at the same time, this is a man who had a hard time picking up context clues in the last 2 volumes, especially when Lisa wanted to take him. But either way, though, you do have Clark Kent basically leave because right now there's trouble in Metropolis. And of course, you have Clark Kent leave because the bridge is falling apart in Metropolis. So of course, you have Superman be Superman, where of course, he has to basically save people's lives before they all fall in the water and possibly drown. Now, you do have Superman being able to actually save a lot of lives, but there is something I do want to point out. It's this right here. Because with Superman saving lives, he's still having a hard time kind of being that hero. Because guys, you have to remember, when it comes to Earth 1 comics, usually all their stories take place in like a month, 2, maybe half a year, possibly a full year. But either way though, with Volume 3, Clark Kent is still new to the idea of being a hero. It's kind of like Year 1 Superman, but broken up into 3 separate volumes. That's how crazy everything is. And so while he's kind of struggling, saving cars left and right, luckily somebody else comes to help him. And that person is Zod himself. Now, this is the moment where you basically have Zod tell Superman everything he needs to know about Krypton. Now, with that being said, right off the bat, you have Zod tell Superman, hey, listen, I'm your uncle. Like, basically, your father and I, we were brothers. I was there at your birth. I was there the days before the planet blew up. Now, of course, the big question is, though, how did Zod survive the death of Krypton? Well, you have Zod say two more things. One, he says that basically Superman is the prince of Krypton. That basically the Elf family was kind of like the ruling family of Krypton. That right there is very huge. But he says that when it came to Clark Kent's father, his Kryptonian father, that Jor-El wanted to build colonies on other planets across the universe. Even though some members of Krypton did not like that idea at all, you still have Jor-El basically sent people across the universe to begin the process of building colonies on other planets. And the first person was Zod. And so that explains how Zod was able to actually escape the death of Krypton. Now, we are left to believe that this is an actual true story, but of course, this could be false. Now, of course, that is the moment where we basically pick up with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, who are right now on the bridge, just trying to get enough information to basically tell a story for the Daily Planet. But while you have the characters on the bridge, that's the moment where you do have a firefighter tell his captain that the way it looks like, this bridge did not just fall apart. It was sliced by intense amount of heat. Something very hot cut right through the bridge. And of course, right now, there are only two characters on this entire planet who can do that. Zod and Superman. That right there is kind of alarming because now it's like, oh, did Zod do this? But for the public, it's like, did Clark Kent do this? Not Clark, but did Superman do this? But then we jump over to Superman and Zod one more time. Now, the reason why, because you actually have Zod kind of wrapping up his story, but it's him hoping that he was actually able to gain the trust of Superman, hoping that with his story, Superman believes him, that he gained his trust to basically use that trust for something down the road. But of course, you kind of have Superman on defense mode right now because honestly, it's just too true to be real right now. You're my long lost uncle. You've been out there forever and you finally arrive on Earth to find me. Like, it's just a lot to take in. And so you have Clark say, you know what? I will come back to you once I ask my ship if it's true with everything you said right now. If the ship tells me that everything you said right now is true, then I believe you. But if my ship tells me you're lying, then of course, we're gonna have a problem. But either way, you do have Clark Kent and Zod go their separate ways for the time being. Now, that is the moment we actually do jump over to the American government because right now they're having another meeting. Now, this meeting is, of course, about Superman and Zod because now they can confirm that there are now two Kryptonians on Earth and they were already scared of just one. But now you're telling them there's two, they're freaking out. But you have Zod walk into the meeting. He says, I'm here to help you guys. I'm here to help you get rid of him, Superman. Because on my home world, his family blew up our world. His family is the reason why our world is gone. And I fear that basically with him being here on your world, that he could technically wipe out your planet next. Is Zod just lying left and right? But is Zod wanting to kill off Superman? Now, we have no idea why he wants to kill off Superman, but Zod wants to. It's clear as day. And so it's him joining forces with the military. Now, the military at first kind of like, can we trust you? But is Zod saying, I am going to make sure that your world survives. I'm going to make sure I take him out. But if I do die, I pray for you guys. Like, it's me sacrificing my body to save your world. It's Zod really trying to gain that trust of the military to basically have their help to kill off Superman. Now, we do jump back over to the Daily Planet, and this is where you kind of have the public begin to kind of wonder if they can actually trust Superman now. Because with that bridge falling apart, and now it's confirmed that basically the bridge was sliced by an intense amount of heat, the question is though, who did it? Superman or Zod? And right now, you kind of have the public wonder, well, he's been on Earth longer. He has done a lot of different things on our planet longer than Zod did. So what if it's him still trying to gain our trust by going out his way to cause an accident on the bridge, but then come back around to basically save everyone on the bridge? What if is Superman right now still trying to gain the trust of the public? It's Lois Lane and Perry White kind of having that thought process right now. Now, we do pick up with Clark Kent talking to his mother, because Volume 1 had established that his mom is alive, but his dad is dead. Now, with that being said, his mom right now is wanting him to explore the idea of him and Lisa possibly getting together. Now, of course, she knows that Lisa is just a friend, and honestly, at first, she let Clark kind of explore that, the idea of having a friend, but now it's her trying to push Clark into the idea of exploring a relationship, being with someone, finding the love of your life. Is her trying to push her son in the right direction. But of course, Clark is scared. Clark is scared to do it because he always, his entire life, kept everybody away except his mom and his dad. And the reason why? Because of his powers. But his mom saying, you have to let your guards down sooner or later and let somebody in, because sooner or later I won't be here anymore and then you'll be truly alone, and that right there is not healthy. So you have to basically let someone in. And of course, you have a girl next door who at first did like you, now y'all just friends. She calls you her brother, but in reality, no man, she likes you. Go for it. It's Martha trying to say, dude, give me a daughter-in-law sooner or later. It's hilarious to me, but still, you have Martha say, go for it, Clark. Go for that woman. Now, we do jump back over to Lois Lane, because right now you have Lois Lane getting a call from her uncle. Now, this is her uncle basically telling her like, hey, listen, niece, I just got word that the American government and Zod are going to work together to basically kill Superman. And Lois Lane, she freaks out because she knows she has to go warn Superman. She has to go tell him now, because Zod, this guy who he believes is his uncle, is about to attempt to kill him. Now, of course, you do have Superman and Zod actually meet up. Now, with that being said, Superman had not technically gone to his ship to hopefully gather more information about Zod. And so really, this is Superman kind of hoping that he can actually trust Zod enough that Zod would actually be a good person. And so while you have Zod continue to talk to Superman, you have Lois Lane trying to get to that light to turn it on to tell Superman, hey man, listen, Zod is not good. Come here. I need to tell you something really important. But the problem is though, as soon as she does reach the light, Zod and Superman fly away. They fly away. And so basically, Superman is now screwed. Now, while you have Zod taking Superman to this certain location to basically learn more about Krypton, because Zod told Clark that, hey, I will tell you more about Krypton. Well, you have the American government call up Lex and his wife and said, do not step in. Do not use your weapon at all. Right now, the American government is hoping that basically Zod and Superman will kill each other. They're hoping that they can kill two birds with one stone to basically protect the Earth. And so right now, Lex Luthor and his wife are being put to the side, hoping that Zod can kill Superman or they kill each other. One of the two would be great for the entire planet. Now, this is the moment where we basically see Zod going to attack Superman. Because as soon as Zod and Superman arrive at this location, of course you have Zod basically shows Superman his spaceship. And when he does, when Superman gets close enough to the ship, you have DC Earth 1 finally bring in the idea of kryptonite. And that's why I said earlier, I'm proud of DC, because kryptonite has not been seen at all in volume 1, 2, but of course now volume 3. And really, we're already in like 50 pages, maybe 60 pages into this storyline. So really, I give DC a lot of prop for not trying to use kryptonite. But of course, for Clark Kent, he never experienced kryptonite before. And so of course, when you have Zod show this huge amount of kryptonite, it's hurting Superman. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why not Zod is affected by it? Well, Zod is wearing a suit of armor that basically protects him from that radiation that kryptonite gives off. And so right now, the only person who's being affected by it is, of course, Clark Kent. This is Zod getting ready to kill off Superman. And so this gives us our first battle between Superman and Zod. Now this fight, at first, it goes in Zod direction. Like it's Zod winning this fight. Because right now it's Zod using kryptonite as a way to kind of make Superman weak. And of course, the fight is not a fair fight. Because while you have Superman struggling to kind of just get back up, you have Zod being able to just beat down on Superman. And I mean literally beat down on Superman. But of course, with Clark Kent, he's very smart. He knows how to use his environment. And so he was able to use the things around him to basically crack the suit that is protecting Zod from the kryptonite. So of course now the kryptonite is also affecting Zod. And so it does give Clark Kent the chance to actually get away. And he's hoping that he'll be able to get far away enough to basically recover after that beating from Zod. Now, we actually do pick up with Superman crash landing right in front of the American army. Now, of course, it's him hoping that the American army would basically help him fight against Zod, because technically Superman had protected this Earth not once but twice. One, because of Tyrell, but two, because of Parasite. Now, Tyrell, that was his fault, because Tyrell was looking for Clark Kent. But Parasite, that was not his fault. But you had Clark Kent step up as Superman to protect Metropolis from that creature. But of course, the military has been ordered by the American government to not do anything at all. Here's the biggest thing. You actually have the man in charge of this group of soldiers. He tells Superman, listen, I got word, we are not supposed to help you at all. And matter of fact, every country is the same way. Nobody is going to help you at all. You are basically on your own when it comes to fighting against Zod. Superman, I wish you good luck. Now, you do have Superman basically go back to his ship. Now, the reason why he's going to his ship is because he wants to know everything about Zod. Because remember, Superman did not go back to his ship yet. This man went back home, talked to his mom, everything else except going to his ship and seeing that if there is a possibility, if his ship actually has a file on Zod. And of course, the ship does have a file on Zod. And basically, you have the ship tell Superman that the history of Zod is completely different than what Zod had actually told him earlier. That basically Zod has started a civil war. Now, yes, he is still the brother of Jor-El. Yes, he is still the uncle of Clark Kent. But the thing was, on Krypton, he basically started a war against the Science Council because he believed that basically the Science Council was ruining the Kryptonian race. It was bringing it down. And of course, he wanted to get rid of it. And so Jor-El, of course, picked the other side. He picked the Science Council to help them fight against Jor-El. And so that civil war went on for years and years. Now here comes the messed up part. And that is why I said the early pages of this book was teasing something very important. And basically we find out that when it came to Zod, Zod escaped right before Krypton blew up because he was about to get arrested. And so he flew away from Krypton. But before he flew away far, far into space, he basically went to Tyrell. Because remember, Tyrell and his people, they were always in a constant war with Krypton anytime their two planets had crossed paths. And so Tyrell was visited by Zod. And you had Zod give Tyrell the weapon that was basically used to blow up Krypton. Krypton blew up because of Zod. Because Zod was losing the civil war, he basically blew up his home world because he was losing. And he told Tyrell, if anybody escape, find them. But if you fail, send me a signal. And so when Tyrell went after Superman back in Volume 1, and when Tyrell lost, Tyrell did send a signal. And that signal went to Zod. Zod is here to make sure the Kryptonian race is completely erased, especially starting with the son of Jor-El, his nephew. Now, of course, you do have Superman ask his ship, is he actually able to stop Zod? Can he do it? And of course, you have the ship tell him, no, you are going to lose. That basically Zod has years of experience with fighting more than you have. You will basically lose. Now, you also have the ship tell Superman, by the way, when you went home earlier, he followed you. Now, for Clark Kent, he's kind of like, well, why did he follow me though? What's so important at my house? And that is the moment he realized that all the letters that his mom writ to him has her address on there. So meaning that if Zod goes to his apartment, he'll get those letters, find where she lives, and kills her. He will kill everybody who's close to Clark Kent. And so he speeds out and heads towards his apartment, right where you see Zod going to right now. And so you do have Zod head straight towards the apartment of Superman. But while he's doing that and getting closer and closer and closer to that apartment, you have Superman just fly right in and smacks him right in the face and say, no, you will not get that information at all. It's going to end now. And so basically, we're getting round 2. Superman versus Zod, round 2. Let's go. The public are going to watch. You even have Lisa in her apartment look out and she sees him. Like, oh my God, that's Clark. And he is Superman. Oh my God. And he's fighting someone really powerful. And plus, they're near our apartment, which confirms that he is Superman to her. Now, you do have Lee Sanders basically meet up with the Luthors because now with Zod and Clark fighting in Metropolis, it is going to lead to the death of millions. These are two powerful beings fighting it out in Metropolis. And so now it's her telling Lex, get your weapon ready. We are going to kill at least one of them, possibly both of them. But you need to get your weapon ready because it's about to go down. Are you ready, Lex? And Lex is kind of like, I don't have a choice. I have to basically use the weapon now. Like, this is crazy. But getting back over to the battle between Superman and Zod, you have Zod and Clark going back and forth. Now, real quickly though, you do have Zod confirm to Superman that basically he was still able to use his X-ray vision to see the address of where his mother lives. Meaning that as soon as he's done with Clark, he is going to kill off Martha Kent. Now, that right there makes him even angrier. And he gives a powerful punch to Zod. But then in the sky, once again, the light in the sky that has his symbol, and he thinks it's Lois calling him. And so he flies over. The problem is though, when he gets over there, it's not Lois. It's the Luthors. And they hit him with their weapon, the Red Sun Energy weapon. And remember, this weapon was made to basically make Superman powerless. This dude no longer has the powers he had originally. This man is now just your average day person. And so when he tries to fly, he can't fly. He tries to get away, he can no longer get away. It's basically what the American government wanted. They now have the chance to kill Superman. And Zod, he's here, and he's about to give Clark the worst beatdown he had in all 3 volumes. And of course, this is being shown to the public. People are watching this. They are seeing that there was supposed to be their hero getting beat down because the American government was so scared of Superman, they made a weapon to make him weak. And now Zod can kill off Superman. And Zod is beating him down. And everybody's watching. Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, Lisa, they're all watching. And it's kind of like, oh my gosh, could Zod actually kill off Superman here? And Zod is enjoying this. It's Zod saying, beg to me to kill you. Beg me for your death. Let me go ahead and murder you. Go ahead, Clark. Say it. Say it. You want me to kill you. But of course, Clark knows he cannot give this man what he wants. And so you have Clark kind of like, no. I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to give you that chance to basically get what you want. And so it's Clark just still holding on the best he can right now. But then we jump back over to Lex Luthor, his wife, and also Lee Sanders. And right now you have Lex telling us that yes, he is not like his main DC Universe counterpart. That this Lex right here hates the idea of what he's seeing right now. And so while you have Lee and his wife not paying attention to him, you have Lex sneak away and he grabs a weapon. The same weapon he used on Clark Kent. He plans to use the weapon now on Zod. And so you do have the battle go on. The battle does continue. Zod is fighting against Superman, but Zod is beating down on Superman, and the world is watching what could be the death of Superman. Now, it does get to the point where you even have Superman basically call his mother. He was able to get a phone from somebody to call her up and say, Mom, I love you. And this is goodbye. And so we are technically seeing what could be the end of Earth 1 Superman right here and now. And so we do see Zod just continue to attack Clark over and over and over again. I mean, we're literally watching the could be death of Earth 1 Superman. There were a lot of pages kind of dragging this out, but either way though, when we do get to the moment where it does seem like Zod is about to give Superman the final blow, his possible death, that is the moment you have a random truck just run into Zod. It's basically Lisa coming in at the very last second to save the man she loves. And she tells Clark, run, just run. And he runs and he runs. But of course, Zod is still able to catch up to him. And so right now, it does look like this is going to be the end. It's Zod saying, you're going to die here. And it's Clark saying, fine, I'll die here. But of course, I'm going down swinging. And so right when we get to that moment where it's going to be Zod getting ready to kill off Superman, that is the moment you have Lex Luthor appear with the gun and bam, he shoots Zod with the red sun energy gun. And you know what that means now. Zod is now back to regular level, just like Clark Kent. A regular being, no powers. And so now the fight is basically fair. So round 3, oh yeah, it's now Superman and Zod fighting on even level. And so now here comes the final match. And so, of course, you do have Superman and Zod go back and forth, Their fight is going all over the place. This is possibly could be the death of Zod or Superman. Who knows? But somebody is going to die today. Now, Lex Luthor, he's kind of like, I'm still here. And basically, he wants to continue to use the gun on Zod to make Zod even weaker, to give Superman the chance to actually defeat Zod. And so right when it seems like you have Lex Luthor about to shoot Zod with a second blast of red sun energy, right when he pulls the trigger, Zod throws a metal pipe at Lex, and they both get hit. The difference is, though, when it comes to Lex, he was using a gun that only shoots out red sun energy. So Zod right now is just a regular being. But for Lex Luthor, he was stabbed. He was impaled by a metal pipe. So we are now seeing the death of Lex Luthor. And so you do have Zod about to finish off Lex. It does look like he's about to go ahead and kill off Lex Luthor right now. Except right when he's about to go ahead and give Lex the final blow, that is the moment somebody shoots Zod. And because Zod was hit with double red sun energy, he is literally just a regular human being. Which means that a few more gunshots and he's dead. Because Lex's wife, Alexandria, appeared to save her husband. And so she had a gun and she shot Zod a few more times to basically kill him off. Zod is dead. But of course, she is too late because her husband is also dead. And so, of course, she does get the chance to say goodbye to her husband. But the point of this right here is to show that basically because she was so money hungry and fame hungry and so hungry for different things, she got her husband killed. Lex did not want to be involved at all. Lex didn't even hate Superman, but she forced him to help. And now the man is dead. The man that she loves is dead now. And you have to remember, when it comes to this storyline, all Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3, Clark Kent never met Lex. He never got the chance to know Lex. He has no idea who Lex was. And so when Alexandria calls out his name, he's all like, oh, that's his name? I'm sorry for his death. He helped me out. That man right there was a great man. But she blames him. She blames Clark Kent for the death of Lex Luthor. But in reality, it's her fault. It's her fault her husband is dead now. Not Clark Kent. It's her fault. But of course, she does not realize that. And so for right now, no, it's not her fault. It's Clark Kent's fault. But of course, he realized that she's just angry at the world. And so he grabs the gun that Lex made and he flies away to kind of end this moment, to say this storyline is done. Not the whole book yet, but of course, the battle against Zod is now done. Now, after the big battle, you basically do have Clark Kent go to the hospital because Lisa is in the hospital. And of course, it makes sense why. Because remember, in the big battle against Zod, she was one of the characters who kind of helped out to help Clark Kent stay alive. Matter of fact, when Zod was about to kill Clark Kent in one of those many times, you had Lisa drive a truck right into Zod. And of course, she was badly injured. Now, this is a very big moment because this is the moment where you basically have Clark Kent find out that his mother, Martha, was right, that Lisa loves Clark Kent. Because for Clark Kent, he really could not understand why in the world Lisa tried to help him out. Why was Lisa there? And of course, the reason why she was there is because she loves him. She cares for him. It's somebody showing Clark it's okay to let someone into your life. It's okay to be with one. It's okay if they know your secret. And this is huge because for Clark Kent, he's kind of realizing maybe I do like her, but also my mother was right in two ways. One, she knew I needed someone. And two, she knew that Lisa was the one for me. Now, we do pick up with Lee Sanders right now paying a visit to Alexandria Luthor. Now, of course, she is very upset about the idea that basically her husband is dead. This is huge for her because when it comes to the Luthor family, those two Luthors, they were kind of like the smartest two people on the planet, possibly right behind Superman or ahead of Superman. But either way, though, she's very upset with the idea that basically her husband is now dead. And so with the death of her husband, this is her saying that now she is going to go after Superman. That basically she's going to use all the different kinds of resources to kind of help the military, but herself go after Superman. And so this is the birth of this universe version of Lex Luthor. It's Alexandria Luthor, because our Lex Luthor was a good guy. He actually looked at Superman as a hero instead of a villain. Now, this does lead into basically Superman meeting up with the United Nations. And this is Superman telling them all that he is ticked off. Because this is Volume 3, guys. Volume 3. This man had fought against Tyrell. This man had fought against Parasite. This man fought against Zod, but basically this is a man who's trying to help the world, but every single time he tries to do something, the world is just spitting on him and hating on him and wants to get rid of him. And so this is Superman saying, what is wrong with you guys? What did I do wrong? Yes, I am a very powerful being. I am not from this planet. Yes, I have made mistakes, but basically I'm still trying to show you guys I'm a good guy, trying to show you guys I'm not here to hurt you, trying to show you guys that basically you can rely on me. Stop it now. Do not try to come after me. Do not try to stop me, because I'm here to work with you and protect your planet. So do not ever try that again. It's Superman showing how ticked off this man truly is. Now, the next section is really more of Clark Kent telling Lois Lane that basically why he's doing this. Now, before I go deeper into that part right there, I really want to point out that basically this is Clark Kent telling us that him and Lois Lane are not going to happen. And really, it's DC telling us that this is not going to happen. That him and Lois Lane in this universe is not going to happen. It's just two people who are going to be friends. And of course, maybe over time, it could possibly evolve into that, or the idea that basically she might become his best friend and find out that he is Superman and Clark Kent are the same people. But for right now, no. But he does tell us that basically his entire life has always been a challenge, and everything he has been thrown at, he was able to overcome. But of course, it all began when he arrived on Earth. How his parents from Earth basically raised him and took care of him and showed him what it's like to be a hero. Without them, maybe, just maybe, those things wouldn't possibly happen. But it's Clark Kent saying, I'm here to stay, and I'm here to show the world that basically I am not going to mess up. I am going to protect the world. I am not going to turn evil like the United Nations think I'm going to do. Now, of course, you do have Clark Kent basically go back home to Smallville to, of course, go see his mom. But when he does go see his mom, of course, he brought Lisa around to basically tell us that they are a couple, that they are going to be together, that they are going to be a couple in Earth One. And of course, this is a huge step for Clark Kent for a lot of different reasons. That basically is him finally accepting the idea of being with someone. On top of the fact is his mom realizing that her son is going to have a girlfriend now. He's finally accepting that it's okay to have someone in your life, especially when they love you. And so, of course, it's now Clark Kent basically being able to say, okay, mom, you're right. Here she is. Here is Lisa. Now, we do pick up with Clark Kent right now thinking about getting rid of the kryptonite. So basically what he did was he put on a similar armor suit that Zod had earlier to kind of protect him from the kryptonite. The problem is though, when Clark Kent goes to where he basically fought Zod when the kryptonite was introduced in Earth 1 Et, of course when he arrives there, it's no longer there. It's gone. And of course, for Clark Kent, he's kind of wondering, where did it go? And of course, we come to find out that basically he was watched. He was watched by Alexandria Luthor. And so we're left to believe that basically she took the kryptonite. And the book really ends on a very high note where basically you do have Superman spending time with Lisa. Of course, we can finally say that basically they are a couple now. They're making out, doing the good little couple things. But of course, he has to leave because trouble is calling. The hero needs to be a hero right now and protect his city. And so, of course, you do have her tell her boyfriend, the superhero, to go out there and be that hero. And so you have him go out there and be Superman. And this is the end of Earth 1 Superman. There is no volume 4, which honestly sucks. But of course, I still like this series a lot. It is probably my favorite Earth 1 comic. But with that being said, I do hope you enjoy today's comic book video. And if you do, please hit that like button down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.